Hello there! Today I'm going to react to another video by this girl's channel that is Dutch Americano. 10 things that are normal in the Netherlands but are luxuries in America. Let's check it out.
Hi everyone, my name is Ava and I'm an American living in the Netherlands. And today I wanted to talk to you about some things that seem so normal here, but in America they would be considered downright luxuries. This is a long list with a wide variety of things, so let's get into it. Now the first thing I wanted to talk to you about is the supermarket situation here in the Netherlands. In the Netherlands, basically every neighborhood in a city or in a town, you will find a supermarket that is pretty accessible. In the US, that is not a given. If you live in a neighborhood with a supermarket nearby, then that is considered a luxury. That is a perk of the neighborhood. Because of this, in the US, for instance, I didn't know anyone who went grocery shopping.
I never really thought about it, but I mean, this doesn't apply only to the Netherlands. It's pretty much everywhere in Europe that you always have a supermarket nearby. I mean, unless you live in some municipalities like in the mountains. There are some municipalities around here, like in the mountains, that there are no supermarkets whatsoever. That's like the local store that you can get some, the hell? Whatever. That you can get some food in some places. There's still maybe a bar or a restaurant, but the nearest supermarket would be like 5 to 10 kilometers. But that's only in remote locations. Most of the places you got supermarkets near you all the time.
Almost every day. People would either go once a week or twice a week, something like that. Whereas in the Netherlands, it is not uncommon for people to go almost every day. And that is because there are so many
Actually, something that I found out recently, because my parents always embedded on me this idea that if you go to grocery shops once a week and you spend maybe, I don't know, 70 euro, 80 euro, or whatever, you know, you will save money. But that's not true at all. I'd rather just go like 3, 4, even 5 times a week and spend 10 euro each time. Sometimes I spend even less, you know. And I noticed that like that I'm throwing away less food. Definitely. I mean, I'm cooking everything that I'm buying because I'm buying like with the mindset, today I'm gonna cook this, tomorrow I'm gonna cook that. And like that, you're gonna use more your food. When you actually go to buy food for a week, you buy lots of stuff that are unnecessary and they end up in the trash, or you're just gonna cook them and you eat them that you don't even want to eat them, right? I mean, I don't know if I'm the only one feeling like that, but yeah, since I made that discovery, I saved so much more money actually.
supermarkets that it's pretty easy for you to just stop by one on your way from work to your house. And I don't mean having to go way out of your way to do that. No, I mean it's basically on your way. And it kind of almost doesn't matter where you live or work unless you live on a farm. You pretty much can expect that there will be a supermarket that is sort of conveniently on your way home. This is so normal to me here now that I almost find it hard to imagine having to drive to the supermarket. And driving there not because you're trying to buy too many groceries at once, but because you kind of don't have a choice. So if you need to run out to grab a pack of milk, in my case, oat milk, in the Netherlands that takes me about a 5-minute walk, whereas in the US that's easily a 5-minute drive if you're lucky. Now staying on the topic of non-luxury things that you can expect to find in your neighborhood here in the Netherlands, we're going to talk about bakeries. In the US, if there is a bakery nearby, then that's considered a luxury. Even more of a luxury if that bakery is a little bit affordable, but that's typically not the case. Now here in the Netherlands, the bakeries are way more affordable than what I was used to back in the US. They're still, of course, more expensive than if you were to get those same goods at a supermarket, but first of all, they're abundant.
I feel like it's been ages since I last went to the bakeries to buy bread or other goods. I always just go to the local supermarket and get myself everything there. Of course, the food in the bakery is so much better, especially the bread and other stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's more convenient, the supermarket. You can just put on your headphones. You don't need to talk to anyone. You just pay and go. I mean, I don't know. I'm too antisocial. I don't even know why am I doing YouTube. I mean, it's just me in front of the camera anyway.
In basically every neighborhood, you can also find a local bakery. Similarly, another item that would be considered a luxury in the US is cheese, whereas this is the Netherlands, and you have good cheese in the US. But if you are trying to get good cheese, then that is going to cost you, and it's also not as easily accessible. Whereas here in the Netherlands, basically in the supermarkets or just in cheese shops that you also just have, you will find cheese that is good and affordable. But in the US, you're paying, I don't know, $10 for a piece of cheese. And if you think
What?
that's an exaggeration or that sounds like a
Yeah.
lot, just know that it's probably more now. Thanks, inflation. Now, the next item on the list is
Wow.
how easily one can travel to other countries.
What is the average price for cheese in the Netherlands? I feel like in Italy, when you buy the stick of cheese, can you say stick of cheese? I don't know, it sounds pretty weird. It should range the affordable ones, like fresh cheese, I'm talking, like from 10 to 20 euro. The affordable ones for like 10 to 13 euro, and then there are the more expensive ones. Sometimes that's like the one that are like 25 to 30 euro, but those are the one made with wine or beer or some some weird process. I don't know. So yeah, I'm curious to know what's the price, what's the average price for cheese in the Netherlands.
Countries when you live in the Netherlands. And this is definitely
Uh,
a lot. Just know that it's probably more now. Thanks, inflation. Now, the next item on the list is how easily one can travel to other countries when you live in the Netherlands. And this is definitely a luxury in the US. So I want to elaborate a bit more on this topic, but first, I love traveling to other countries, and I know that you do too. So I have a great tip for you for the next time you go traveling. I want to take a moment to introduce you to the sponsor of today's video, Saily. Saily is
That
an
was
eSIM
smooth.
that's brought to you by NordVPN. Now, for those of you not familiar with eSIMs are like physical SIMs, but you can activate them digitally, and all you need is the app. Now, with traditional physical SIMs, I find that getting one can actually be quite a hassle. So even though I travel a lot, I'm so lazy. I think the last time I got a physical SIM was in 2013. Is 2013 more than 10 years ago? Oh, wow.
yes.
Okay, besides the point. Anyway, another big reason I like eSIMs, and especially Saily, is because they're the more affordable option. Hands down. I used to pay so much for data on my trips, and I just don't anymore. So let me show you how this works and exactly how affordable Saily is. So first, the way it works is that you buy a plan for the country you're visiting. I'm gonna select the Netherlands.
But this is stuff from the US, I guess, because in Europe now you got the thing that your plan works everyone in Europe, no? Okay, so I'm gonna skip it because I'm not from the.
That's fantastic because then you'll have data from the moment you land at your travel destination. And the best part of all of this is that you can get an exclusive 15% discount on Saily plans to check countries. And the first time here that someone told me that they went to Paris for the weekend, my jaw literally dropped to the floor. What do you mean Paris for the weekend? Who does that? I thought this person was super fancy schmancy. So I went home and told my Dutch wife, then girlfriend, about this because it was a couple of years ago. And she was like, honey, how do I break this to you? Paris is like 4 hours away on the train. It is not that unusual for someone to go to Paris on the
Wow.
weekend. If you are Dutch or even European and watching this, I don't think you understand what kind of a flex this is in America to say that
I think I've never done it actually, you know. I mean, yeah, it seems like many Europeans like to do that, but never done it to go get away a weekend to another country. Whenever I travel, no, yeah, I've done it 2 years ago. I went to Madrid for but it was for 4 days actually, not for a weekend. Yeah, just for a weekend. But I don't do a regular job. I mean, I mostly now I'm trying to focus on becoming a YouTuber. Maybe we'll make it. I don't know. But before I used to be a professional poker player. So yeah, especially on the weekend I had to be working much more. That's why I probably never did that. And whenever I travel, I was still working. So but yeah, that's crazy. That's a good idea though, to just travel for the weekend. Pretty smart. Never gave it a thought. Also, that was like 3, 4 days. In 2 days, you don't really do much because half. Yeah, I mean, if you travel for 2 days, you're gonna waste pretty much like 12 or 13 hours just by traveling to go and come back. Not really that maybe.
that you went to Paris, a whole other country, for the weekend. We don't do that in America. We can't. Okay, but cut to present day, and now where I work, I even have coworkers who come from Belgium.
It depends. If you live in California, I'm guessing many go to Mexico for the weekend. right?
Belgium because that's where they live and they work in the Netherlands like I do. And that is becoming less and less unusual for me. And now that I've lived here a couple of years, I have also taken advantage of this fact that you can travel easily between the Netherlands and other neighboring countries. So just this year, I went to Paris twice, also for like a long weekend. So yeah, if I feel like a Parisian croissant one of these days, I will just get myself on that train and go to Paris and get myself a croissant. Or croissant. I don't know why I said that. I don't actually speak.
But why is she holding like that? And then at the end he was like, wait.
And get myself a croissant. Or croissant.
Kinda, yeah.
On that train and go to Paris and get myself a croissant.
She should have done it without the paper, though. Without the paper, yes.
Or croissant.
It would have been much better.
I don't actually speak French, so I don't know if that was correct. But
Croissant.
I try. Okay,
Croissant.
now let's talk about a few things around the house that is pretty common in the Netherlands. Like I've seen very many people who have these items that I'm going to be talking to you about, and they seem really commonplace. Whereas in America, you would be a fancy schmancy individual if you had any of these items. So the first thing that I wanted to mention is this bathroom rack to warm up your towel. I can't remember ever having seen this in the US, maybe at a fancy hotel, but in
I do have the same thing. Is it to warm up the towels? I always thought it was like to... Wait. I usually heat up this one the most I can to not take a shower in the extreme cold. I didn't know that was supposed to be to warm up towels. Is it to warm up towels? Bro, I live in this house for 6 years. I have this. I never knew that was the purpose.
In the Netherlands, this is just normal. You have this in your bathroom and people really use it to have their towels nice and dry and warm. So that was surprising to me when I moved here. And this other item are these windows that you can open here sort of halfway. So you kind of can open them all.
Oh my god, I saw so many fucking TikToks on that. Oh my god. You see so many TikToks. I don't know if it's still a trend or people like... By the way, I never had a window like this, you know? Never, ever.
The way, but you can also like adjust them to a setting that you can open them sort of halfway to like air out the room, because airing out your room for een beetje frisse lucht is so important to Dutch people. So imagine if they didn't have windows that allowed you to do that. In the US, I feel like this would be considered fancy because this seems like an exclusive feature on your windows. But again, this is something that's more or less standard here in the Netherlands. I've also seen doors that can do that, by the way, and I don't know how common that is, but it exists. And another thing that I've seen in people's homes that I think is also pretty standard, like you can do this at IKEA, and in the US you would again be a fancy schmancy individual if you had this, or at least it's considered a more fancier option, which is having a built-in refrigerator in your kitchen. Like here in the Netherlands, people just have this. Like I said, you can go get your kitchen made at IKEA and that's just one of the options. Very many people have it. Like cheap kitchens that are put into, you know, cheap rental apartments will also have this, which I found really surprising because as I said, in the US, this is considered.
But I think that's just the way that they are built, no? And what's the difference whether you have it your fridge together with the whole thing? I don't see the difference.
Considered a fancier option. So I will be ending this video with a few big ticket items, but before I do that, I wanted to talk to you about one medium-sized item, which is public parks. Here in the Netherlands, if you live in a big city even, it is pretty common to have a public park not too far away. And I'm not talking about basketball courts and concrete everywhere. I'm talking about luscious green parks. In the US, I mentioned the basketball courts. You will have some sort of like play area that's kind of common, like a playground, but for like older kids or adults, so like a basketball court or something like that. You might have a few of those in the city, but when I'm talking about like actual parks, you don't have that as much in America as you do here. And if you did in America, then that would be considered a, again, perk or plus of a neighborhood. Whereas here in the Netherlands, that's pretty common, and I know that they want to build on this even more. If you live in a city like Amsterdam, I find that there are very many parks there, and it is like green and luscious, but Dutch people consider this such a basic necessity that they want to up their game in this regard. So I'm excited to see how many more green, luscious spaces show up here in Dutch cities. All right, now let's talk about those big ticket items that I promised. And I always find it difficult to talk about these topics, even though I've mentioned them very many times in my videos. But I'm gonna do it anyway because they're absolutely very, very important, especially when you talk about something like this. Things that are normal in the Netherlands that would be considered a luxury in the US. And it is with great pain and sorrow in my heart that I say that affordable healthcare is normal in the Netherlands, and in America, it's definitely a luxury. So in America, if you are someone with great insurance through your job, you are one of the lucky ones. And in the Netherlands, that is just not the case. The standard health insurance here in the Netherlands will be considered a luxury in America. And of course, I don't need to tell you about the fact that if you get into an emergency accident and need to get into an ambulance or go to the hospital in America, that could pretty much bankrupt you.
That's
so
crazy.
What a luxury if that doesn't happen to you in the Netherlands. The next thing I wanted to mention is paid parental leave. In the Netherlands, every individual who has a child gets paid parental leave. That is considered standard and commonplace. You do not just get paid parental leave if your employer is a fancy employer that gives you fancy paid parental leave. This is a legal requirement. In America, until recently, you didn't even have unpaid parental leave. So now you have some unpaid parental leave in America, but here in the Netherlands, it's paid. And the Netherlands actually doesn't have amazing parental leave when you compare it to other countries in Europe, especially when you're talking about the birth parent. But still, in America, you're kind of expected to work right up to the point that you give birth. Like, I'm not kidding. I've seen very many women, countless women, work with...
I think in Italy it should be like you stop working 3 months before you give birth, if I'm not mistaken.
Huge pregnant bellies, and I seriously don't know how they did it. Like, they're super women. Here in the Netherlands, you are actually required to take 4 weeks before you give birth off.
4 weeks.
And that is paid. You can take up to 6 weeks of leave before you give birth. So it's pretty nice that you have a little bit of time before you give birth. Also physically, like, I never thought about this until my wife was pregnant, but oh my God, being pregnant is really hard on your body. Like, of course I knew that in some abstract way, but when you see it up close, it is really shocking to me now that I just knew all of these women who worked while they were pregnant.
Wait, can you marry with people of the same sex in the Netherlands? Can you in Italy? Can do that, right? Can you in the Netherlands?
Pregnant, you know, standing on their feet all day, and they could go into labor any minute. That's wild. And the final thing I would like to mention is plenty of paid vacation days and also unlimited sick leave. In the US, again, you could work at a fancy company that has a pretty good plan for holidays, but sometimes they have an unlimited number of holiday days that you can take, and people working there actually don't end up taking very much because they're still then competing with their peers, and then if your colleague you work with, if they take less holiday days, then you don't want to be the slacker that takes more holiday days. So it's very much in the culture to not do that. Whereas here in the Netherlands, people are required to have a minimum of 20 days of paid vacation. And I think in the US, that's already quite high. But in the Netherlands, that would be considered the bare minimum.
How the hell is that high? 20 days!
Like, I don't know anyone who has just 20 days. Most people have more than that. Okay, and maybe saying unlimited sick leave is a bit misleading, but for up to 2 years in Netherlands, you could be sick. So if you get a burnout here, for instance, you could have like a longer term leave. But in the US, you have something called sick days. So if you're sick, you need to call in and use one of your sick days, and you start off a year with a set number of sick days. Here in the Netherlands, you have a bad migraine, you can call your boss and be like, I'm so sorry, I'm not going to be productive at work today. And that is not the same as taking a sick day, because let's just say you catch something and you're sick, I don't know, every other week. You could do that here in the Netherlands. People aren't thinking about how many days they have to budget for being sick each time they get sick. People just call in sick when they're not feeling well and they feel like they're not going to be productive at work. This is so different in America that I think because you don't have sick days here in the Netherlands, I feel like informally from what I've heard from Americans who've moved here, that they have trouble actually calling in sick because they're like, I don't have any set number of days. Like, when am I sick enough to call in sick? And I know from my personal experience that I had to wait for the first year and a half at my job at a Dutch company to see what my colleagues did, my Dutch colleagues. And then afterwards I was like, okay, I think I understand how it works. And also my manager doesn't seem to be getting angry at them. So I can just call in sick when I am actually sick. And I do that now, and it is fantastic. It is not a luxury, it is just something that is standard and commonplace. So those are some things I wanted to share with you on this topic today. As usual, I'm curious to hear about your experiences, and if I left anything out that you find important, please let me know. And as usual, until next time, doei!
That was very interesting, but I feel like that was more about. I've learned more about the US than the Netherlands in this video. Oh my god, yeah, some things. I mean, there are many cool things in the US that are better than Europe, but some of the social contract type of stuff, especially at work, they're really bad, at least for us in Europe, but it's a different culture. If you're brought up in that culture, I mean, I think it's unfair for us from Europe to judge the Americans on this matter, because I feel like it's just Europe like that. But even in Asia, people is required to work their ass off until the last moment, even if you're sick or whatever. It's just a different culture. Gotta respect it. There's no other way around. So yeah, this video was really cool. If you want me to check out more stuff to learn more about the Netherlands, I can't even talk today. I'm sorry. Yeah, let me know. Also, go and check out the channel of Dutch Americano. It was really interesting. And yeah, just fire away your recommendations, and I will be reacting to those videos very soon. Ciao, ciao.